She had named him Winston before the baby came. And for the first 3 months of Abby's life, she had been asked regularly whether she was worried about having a 115-pound Pyrenees in the house with a newborn. And she had said no each time with the particular confidence of someone who had done the research and knew her own dog. She had been right about Winston. She had been right about everything except the furnace. The night it happened was the night Abby turned 8 weeks old, which Teresa marked in the quiet way she marked things, with a note in the journal she kept on her phone. With a photograph of Abby on her playmat in the late afternoon light, it had been a good day. Abby had eaten well. Teresa had slept for 3 consecutive hours, which felt like luxury. The heat was running steadily against the December cold outside, and the house was warm. At 2:17 in the morning, Winston got off his bed. Teresa was a light enough sleeper that she heard him. She tracked him by sound, paws on the hardwood of the hallway, the specific cadence of his weight moving with purpose, not the leisurely repositioning of a dog changing sleeping spots. He went toward the nursery, and she listened for the confirmation that he had settled outside Abby's door, which he did most nights, and instead heard something else. He was circling, she could tell by the sound. A repeated loop, the pattern of a dog that has found something it does not understand and is trying to understand it by approaching from multiple angles. She got up. He was in the hallway outside the utility closet where the furnace was. He had his nose pressed against the gap at the bottom of the door. She said his name. He looked at her once and went back to the door. If you stay for stories about what animals sense before we do, you are in the right place. Subscribe so you do not miss the next one. She did not smell anything. She pressed her own face close to the door and breathed and smelled dust and the faint metallic smell of a heating system, and nothing that alarmed her. But Winston was still at the door. She had a carbon monoxide detector in the bedroom. She walked back and looked at it. It read 0. She almost went back to bed. She was 8 weeks postpartum and running on the accumulated sleep debt of 8 weeks of 2-hour cycles, and she was standing in a hallway at 2 in the morning looking at a reading of 0 on a CO detector and a dog that was fixated on a door. She called her brother, who was a firefighter. He did not answer. She called her mother-in-law, who lived 3 blocks away. Her mother-in-law said, "Call 911." She called 911. She told them she had a dog that was fixated on her furnace enclosure and that her CO detector was reading 0, and she was not sure if this was an emergency. The dispatcher told her that animal behavior around furnace areas was taken seriously, and someone would be there in under 10 minutes. They arrived in 7. The firefighter, who took the reading from inside the utility closet, came back with a number: 22 parts per million at the detector, 67 at floor level. Floor level. Where Abby slept in her crib. Has your dog ever done something that made no sense until it was the only thing that made sense? Tell us in the comments. These stories deserve to be heard. The bedroom CO detector was mounted at chest height on the wall. CO is heavier than the mixture of gases in normal air and accumulates at floor level before distributing through the room. The detector had been reading correctly for its installation position, which was the wrong position for detecting a slow, low-level leak that was pooling on the floor. Abby's crib was on the floor. The crib mattress put Abby's face approximately 8 inches above the carpet. The heat exchanger in the furnace had a hairline crack, the same failure mode the firefighter explained he saw several times each winter. The CO had been entering the house at a rate low enough that the wall-mounted detector never alarmed, and building concentration at floor level where Abby breathed all night. Winston's nose was at floor level. He had been smelling it. They stayed with the mother-in-law for 2 nights while the furnace was replaced. New equipment was installed along with 2 additional CO detectors, both at floor level, one in the nursery and one in the hallway outside it. Teresa also ordered a standalone carbon monoxide meter with a digital readout that she could check manually and placed it on the floor beside Abby's crib. Every guardian deserves to be recognized, even the ones who never asked for anything in return. If stories like this matter to you, subscribe so you never miss the next one. The firefighter who inspected the new installation told her, when she asked, that dogs had a CO detection threshold roughly 100 times lower than any commercially available detector, and that they responded to the associated combustion byproducts, which do have a detectable scent, at concentrations well below what humans or instruments registered. He said, "Your detector did its job. It was just installed too high," he said. The dog's detector has been running at floor level his whole life. Abby was 4 months old now. Winston lay on the floor of the nursery most nights, which Teresa no longer tried to change because she understood now what he was doing down there, running the continuous monitoring he had always been running at the level where everything important in that room existed. She had been asked whether she was worried about a Pyrenees with a newborn. She was not. She had been right about that. She had not been right about everything, but the things she had missed had been caught by something that was, it turned out, paying closer attention than anything else in the house.